y'all kept a girl waiting. Let's try this.
To all of my children in whom life flows abundant.
Whew! It's good to be out of Loserville back there. Those last 10 dungeons weren't even a little bit fabulous, what with the poison and the goopy bug juice. The fact that we ended by saying that the destruction of nature's beauty was the best those 10 had to offer, yeesh, I think that speaks for itself. Well, yo everyone, Princess Chaser back again, having finished up with the Princess Chase, sadly walked away from that one maidenless, but did come away with a pink puffball in this lovable loser, so some might say it went better than most. Anyway, it's time to return to Eorzea as we continue to dive into A Realm Reborn Dungeons. This time, we'll be moving another 10 forward, hopefully rising above the murky waters of the prior 10, their names permanently engraved at the bottom of the well. Say hello to Sadako for me. Just like before, there'll obviously be spoilers ahead, tomfoolery abound, and hopefully we can start to find the winners. Of course, it shouldn't need to be said, but this is all my opinion and is based on how much I like the dungeon's design, theme, bosses, and so on. In the end, all we can do is press on.
Number 20. Sastasha.
Ah, the first dungeon of the game. I actually love this dungeon, believe it or not. You know, the grimy old pirate den filled with bloodthirsty pirates, kidnapped maidens, and maidens traumatized and thrown in the hole after most definitely being violated by said pirates. Okay, Sastasha isn't sunshine and rainbows, it's actually the first big reality check in the game, showing that the tone isn't the same as all your other happy-go-lucky JRPGs, but come on, it was my first dungeon ever. I've never played an MMO before this one really, so this shithole holds a special place in my heart. That being said, there isn't really anything too special about this one. It's the middle boss, if it can be called that stands as the most tone-annihilating thing ever, but the first and third aren't bad. Of course, you never get to see the full fight in regards to the end boss, as he's dead before it can trigger. Regardless, this isn't a bad dungeon, and may even be the subject of plenty of enlightened reading, for some thanks to the hole. Ugh, that place is one of the darker rooms in the game. Remind me to not book a vacation to Sastasha, unless Tsukushi is there to protect me.
Number 19. The Stone Vigil.
It's dragon season again. It's time to bag us some cool scaly waifus. And husbandos. Is there a better word for that? Anyway, the Stone Vigil is our first true blue dragon on Warrior of Light action. It's pretty alright. It's a fairly standard affair, aside from having to hardcore pound a poor dragon with a cannon in the second fight, which is thankfully not on Kukafera's level, but it's fun enough. The final fight really highlights a problem with A Realm Reborn, and Heavensward actually, and that is that they haven't unified the markers for attacks. Here, it doesn't matter thankfully, as long as your fellow adventurers know that the blue glowy spot means that Ishkabind wants to hurt you, not love you. Although it's love to some, I suppose. Spare your healer, love the dragon on your own time, please.
Number 18. Pre-6.1 non-stop.
Imagine queuing up for this one for the first time. Huh, Brayflux's Long Stop. That's a stupid name. Duty pops, you load in, and whoa, how is this a dungeon? This is the first dungeon I'd call beautiful, as it's just a jungle. This is also the first dungeon to have a where the fuck do I go kind of layout, as it has plenty of large areas to get lost in, despite them being unneeded. This one is an odd one really, and is mostly put here for two reasons. Well, the first one is because it's beautiful, and the second is because dragons. Not really on the second one though. I just like this one. It's not the most fun to play thanks to the level it's placed at, but it's just a nice time. Now, it has a lot of problems, but I'm going to ignore them because it was the first WoW dungeon in the game. Of course, it's painful to play now depending on the class, but this one is still a cool one for the time.
Number 17. The Wanderer's Palace.
Boy howdy does playing this one as a scholar make things a tad awkward. The Wanderer's Palace is the home to the cutely terrifying marketing mascot, hideously terrifying monster Tonberry, and there are a lot of them. Thankfully, they are not as dangerous as the ones their girlfriends told them not to worry about, the Tonberry Stalkers. Believe me, if it hasn't already from engaging in too much ERP, if you're into that, your throw is going to take a hell of a beating here. Now, this one was actually hard for me to place, as I do like the place, as simple as it is visually, but boy did I burn myself out on it during the first Moogle Tome event I participated in. Hey yo, I didn't get this Fenrir the legit way, darling. No way, I whored myself out, Kupo. Never have I been throat stabbed as many times as then, and never again. So while I may have once liked this place more than I do now, those damn Moogles put me to work here too many damn times. Fenrir sure was worth it though.
Number 16. The Wanderer's Palace. Hard.
Well, isn't this an awkward lineup? Placing them side by side like this just seems rude, almost as if we're saying one Wanderer's Palace is cooler than the other. Well, while I like the other one more theme-wise, as Tonberries are pretty cool, this one is about protecting and avenging our scholarly friends, and feels right at home when you're rolling our Fairy Boy class. The main reason I put this one above the original is I think this one is more fun and challenging without the need to light a fire under your ass, with the very real threat of a throat stabbing. This one is chaotic and remixes the dungeon well enough, sad that it's the same old uninteresting looking palace. Protect your Tonberries, they need love too.
Number 15. Sestasha. Hard.
Oh no, even more trauma. Seriously, why is this one of the most messed up dungeons in the game? The original is fairly dark, but only if you really look for that hole. Here it just flat out spells it out for you. Though, again, this one has a messed up tone as you go from fighting sea creatures and the Leviathan-twisted women that you failed to free the first time around, to fighting the Leviathan-twisted pirates and goddamn Captain Madison again, as he screams about balls for being a bad shot. All this comes to a head when you're face to face with a Kraken at the end, in a rather silly way to end a horrific trip down memory lane. If where this place didn't tip you off, this is the first step on the path of the better dungeons in the base game. Don't let the grotesque treatment of women past tell you otherwise. Underneath all the twisted darkness and the horrific showing of what the Primals can do, there's a pretty fun dungeon with a gimmicky but fun fight at the end. It's also a good remix of the original, where enough is there to tell you it's the same place, but it's been altered enough to not feel repetitive. I'm looking at you, Copperbell Mines and Stone Vigil.
Number 14. Hullbreaker Isle.
Idle and Have Mercy, another pirate-themed adventure with Ukushi and her adventuring bros? One must think you're rather fond of the rough sort. Well, you got me there. I can't pass up a swashbuckling adventure, and that is just what Hullbreaker Isle is. This one is not only a nice looking place, but it's fairly fun, and the first room can be quite challenging if all present are not prepared for a fight. It's also got some goddamn moments of comedy gold, even if some aren't intentional. Those stupid bear traps are hilarious, as they're like vacuums. They just suck you in like Kirby wants you inside them. And don't get me started on tentacle hentai at the end. I'll be honest, there are some rough parts, especially said tentacle hentai at the end. If you fight it too well, it'll start doing all its phases at once and make it very annoying to actually fight. Still, this one is a fun time. Even the Warrior of Light needs some genuine adventure in her life.
Number 13. The Deltara Deep Croft.
Out with the sunny and funny adventure and in with the spooky and scary. This is the second dungeon you ever enter, meaning it won't be too insane, but boy is it a short but sweet one. I'm a fan of the more horror-themed dungeons in the game, especially the ones that use Void Scent correctly, and this one also just has a cool design. Basically being a spiral with a view to see your goals, it's a vastly different dungeon design to the other dungeons in the game, and it's just very neat. While the gameplay side of things may not be anything too special, the dungeon design, on top of the dungeon ending on Mr. Cthulhu Mindflayer himself, it's a cool one. I don't really have much to joke about with this one. I guess don't submit to peer pressure and summon Void Scent. It don't end too well for you.
Number 12. Cutter's Cry.
Another one with an interesting design, but some disappointing parts truly keeping it down. Cutter's Cry is an ant colony on the outskirts of Ul'dah, and it's an interesting looking place. Well, half of it is. The first half is like a sunken desert oasis in a cave setting before you dive deep into the sand and find the ant tunnels within. In there, things are more typical and boring, but it's one of the few dungeons to have a truly dangerous room. The Oasis rooms are rooms where it's optional to actually fight anything, with your goal simply to find the sands down. This is an interesting choice, and those rooms can get quite touch and go. Us healers aren't fully equipped at this level, so you're going to want to treat us right sometimes. This is one of those times. On top of that, the bosses here are pretty fun and varied, a rarity for Realm Reborn. Thankfully, this one is pretty fun, even if you don't get your full moveset. Not a place I'd want to visit, however. Ul'dah is a lot of things, but one thing it's not is friendly to outsiders. When it comes to these monster ants and their princess, multiply that by 1,000. At least all these ants will do is kill you. Though, an ant princess, huh?
Number 11. The Keeper of the Lake.
Dragons again? At least, sort of. This is an odd but very cool dungeon as far as its setting goes. A downed Imperial ship with a giant, dead, legendary dragon on top. It just screams Final Fantasy. As far as gameplay, however, this is after they found their footing and created the current form of dungeons, so this is standard fare. Thankfully, it's good standard fare with great music and 2 challenging bosses. The middle boss can go jump in the lake we are keeping, but the other 2 are swell old chaps. It also has a classic Squaresoft reference inside, which is nice and reminds me that I need to play that game. Not much else to say, other than we are now entering the great portions of the dungeons. Not that any of this current list have been bad. And thus, we close the book on the second chapter of our little trilogy here. I personally think all the dungeons have been good this time, with only slight imperfections keeping them out of the great territory. Let's call it great keeping. We only have 10 more to go, and if you are a fan of the game and you have the dungeons more memorized than me, you should know which are left. But are you psychic? Could you potentially guess the order? If so, why are you watching this video not out making some gil somewhere? Or real cash you prefer to exist in the real world? I'm just glad I can say there was nothing dreadful to record here. Thankfully, it'll be fairly smooth sailing ahead with only 3 speed bumps, but boy, they look like mountains to me and my poor Chocobo. And to Akushi. I can't forget about her. So how is the list taking shape in your opinion? Have some disagreements on placing so far? Would you be a participant in the various activities and enlightened reading going on in the whole? If so, sign off about your opinions in the comments below. Consider landing a critical hit in the like button, and while you're at it, you can land a satisfying limit break on the subscribe button if it takes your fancy. It can help the channel grow and notify you on any videos I upload. Who knows, you may even like them. If you were part of the last bit, no judging, but you might want to rethink some things, bro. The final piece of this Realm Reborn trilogy will be coming soon. Until then, I've got some princesses to chase. I hear Princess Sarah is in need of some saving. Feeling Warrior of Lighty, might kill Chaos later. Until next time.